Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Miss D, your friendly neighborhood art teacher, with some directions for today's assignment. So for today, you are continuing with the drawing that you started yesterday. And just as a reminder, remember that you're bouncing from corner to corner. And it may take a few tries, it may take a little bit of practice, but the goal is to do this without picking until you go off the page. But for the most part, you're not going to pick up your pencil. I'm going to try to do this. In long, even, smooth motions for as much as possible. Now, I've got two big fat columns. The one that goes in the middle is going to be a lot more pinched, but you're still following that same process. So it means that for these pinched columns, your arc is probably going to be a little bit more pointy, more V-like. Just draw lightly, because that way, if you have a wobbly hand, is he still going up towards that V? Still pointing up towards that V? Or towards that dot? So that way, if you have a wobbly hand, you can erase. Then, once you have finished the entire page, you'll go back over it with a Sharpie and try to do those same smooth motions. Now, if you do short marks like this, you do have more control over the Sharpie, but I want you to look at what's happening here. These lines, as opposed to this one, you see how it has these little breaks, these little what I call feathers? The goal, and it does, is it something that you have to train your hand? It doesn't happen naturally. The goal is to have a line that doesn't have any breaks or feathers, and a long smooth motion is going to do that more so than doing lots of short little motions. So once you have inked the entire page, you'll go back and erase your pencil marks. Now, before you do that, one thing I want to make sure you guys avoid whenever you're doing your dots. Just to give you an example. Alright, so you've got your columns. One thing to avoid is to have a line that does not go back to your dot. You want to make sure it goes back to your dot. And then when you start making your other column, you want to make sure it runs along this side. You don't want to have crisscrosses like this. You want to avoid having this diamond shape appear. You need it to run along the side of your creation. We also don't want to have random rainbows that are not touching any of our orderly dots. So, deleted. Now, once you have drawn and inked your beautiful picture, you shall choose at least 3 colors. And you might want to choose, like, say, a warm palette, like do all warm colors, or choose all cool colors, or do alternate, like say cool, warm, but you know, just plan out your colors, choose good ones, and then you are going to start your shading. Now you want to do realistic shading. This is where the op art comes in, as you're trying to make these look like they are 3D and kind of a metallic sheen to them. So in order to do this, what I do is get my colored pencil, I hold it towards the back of the colored pencil, turn it sideways, and then very lightly, I'm holding it towards the back using the side of the pencil, and sometimes like small circular motions more so than straight up and down, because you don't want to see streaks. You don't want to see the white of the paper showing through. You want it to be as even as you can make it. And once you have that, that's your first step. Second step now is I'm going to slide my fingers down to the bottom of the barrel. This is going to make me press down harder. So this is where we get our dark shade. So in the corners, we're going to color our darkest shade. Now already it looks pretty good, but there's a sharp contrast between the dark and the light, and we want it to be a little bit more smooth. So I'm going to move my hand back to the back end of the pencil, turn it sideways, and I'm not pressing down. I'm barely touching the pencil to the paper, but I'm using small circular motions where the dark meets the light. And the longer I spend in here, the more smooth it's going to look, until eventually you have a nice mid-tone that creates a gradual transition between the dark and the light. It's just small circular motions where the darkest shade meets the lightest shade to create a nice medium tone. And you can touch up a little bit if you need to. But if you do this going all the way down, you're going to have an excellent sort of metallic looking column. Now before you ask, like I said, you need to have at least 3 colors, and for this particular assignment, white is not acceptable. You want to have every piece of your column shaded in. You can do your columns solid colors, like if you want to do entirely blue, entirely red, entirely green, and so on. Or you can, I prefer doing different colors on each layer. So that way, I think it's a little bit more interesting than just having red column, blue column, green column. And I said at least 3 colors. You can have as many colors as you can hunt down in the room. Think about like a theme, like you could do like a Halloween colored theme, or you could do like rainbows, or you could do like girly colors, scary colors. But you want to have at least 3. So there you have it. You're going to finish drawing your columns, go over them with Sharpie, smooth lines, erase your pencils, and then go through and begin coloring. And this takes time. My closing thought for you guys for this is it takes less time to go slowly and do something well, rather than feeling like you have to rush through it and then having to start over and do the whole thing over again. So don't think that just because you're working a little bit slowly that it's going to take you a lot longer than someone who's rushing through. Because a lot of times those people who rush through end up having to start over because it doesn't quite look as good as they can do. They can do much better, and that's what our goal is. This is a good shading exercise. It's something that's very important if you want to be a good artist, is to be able to shade well. So I'm going to leave you with that, and if you have any questions, you can post them to the Google Classroom, and I will check periodically. Y'all have fun.